mostly a writer. I've written 3 novels and some other books, but I also have done some visual art in my life. And this presentation is going to be on my visual art, and it's chronological, and it's in 4 parts. The first part is Microsoft Paint. I started using Microsoft Paint a lot in 2006 because I had a friend who later became my girlfriend, and for about 9 months during our relationship, we would draw Microsoft Paint drawings and email them to each other. This one is Embarrassed Ice Beast. And my intention with this was to just show, it wasn't to, I didn't want the embarrassment to be because of any specific reason. The ice beast is just embarrassed for being alive. That's what I wanted to convey. Peruvian jungle pig. And with this one, I think you can see how little context I showed for the pig. So the main focus is just, for me, on the pig being a little bit sad and seeming tired. Because I like to portray things that seem sad, but they're just not doing anything about it. Not that they're not improving themselves, but they're not acting out and like attacking someone or something. Network cards, raft ride to freedom, realizing it's fucked. This one, some of you have probably noticed that doesn't look like a network card. I think I drew either a modem or a router that I had back then. This is called Ass Eater. This is not typical of what I draw usually. And one way which is completely not typical is that the eye is all sclera. It has no pupil. Usually I always include a pupil, because otherwise there's no emotion, it seems like. And I drew this one because my friend and I were a fan of this writer, Noah Cicero, and he had a novel that featured a lot of ass eating. So this just alludes to that. Buddhist Tyrannosaurus Rex. Sasquatch sitting at bench at night experiencing the full effect of the loneliness of existence. Homeless moose. And if you look at the background, you can see it's in a pretty urban environment. Gas-powered ocean sunfish alligator hybrid. If I were to analyze this one, I think I just took 2 animals, combined them, and then added a non sequitur thing, which is the gas-powered part, because there's no reason why it should be gas-powered. Oh, shit. I was going to say, like, if you don't know what an ocean sunfish is, here it is. It's the one on the right. I really like ocean sunfish in a similar way that I like hamsters, because so much of its body, it's also its head. It's just pretty much all head. And I like heads because that's where the face is, and that's where the emotion is conveyed. Here's another ocean sunfish picture that I like a lot. Shaved camel baby. Eggplant. Blue binky. You're wondering what binky is. This is Binky. He's a toy poodle that my family had when I grew up in Florida. And I took this photo just by like getting really low and having him run at me, and I photographed him. Starting with this drawing, the purpose wasn't to just send it to one person because our relationship had ended. We still collaborated on other stuff, but we stopped sending each other Microsoft Paint drawings by email. This one's before shower. Another notable thing about this is that I usually am not that detailed at all, as you have probably noticed. I don't just use all these lines on a face. I usually just have the eyes and the mouth. This is after shower. It's connected to the other one. Upside down cross friends. The can't concentrate manatee. I drew this one after writing a story called The Can't Concentrate Manatee. In the story, a manatee is trying to write an article about Kafka for book form, and it's due like the next day, and she can't concentrate. Arctic moose. You probably noticed the moose has a really rectangular body, and my inspiration for that comes from another toy poodle that my family had growing up in Florida, and her name was Tabby, and that's her. Really rectangular body, I think. This is part 2 of my presentation, and I started using colored paper, scissors, black marker, cardboard, and tape to make art because I'll tell you why soon. Banana jumping in swimming pool with bored / vaguely distracted facial expression. Out of all the probably 80 of these I made, this one was most popular by far. And the reason I started using cardboard was because I was making them to sell or to be in art shows. I couldn't do that with Microsoft Paint. And the reason I didn't just use marker, but instead cut out colored paper and taped it onto other colored paper, is because if I want to color this entire thing yellow, I don't have the Microsoft Paint bucket function, which just colors it all yellow, unless I just take yellow paper and then tape the other thing over. Financially desperate tree doing a quadruple kickflip off a cliff into a 5,000 plus feet gorge to retain its Nike, Fritos, and Red Bull sponsorships. And this is photographed. You can see how the cardboard ones, if you photograph it, there's a slight 3D effect. This is the third part, and I started using Photoshop more. Partly because in the library I would go to every day, they were upgrading their computers, and they were like less with Microsoft Paint and more with Photoshop. Prize-winning hamster. This hamster is part of... In 2009, I was making an iPhone app called North American Hamsters. It would include 60 hamsters with descriptions of them and hunting tips and other stuff. I'm still working on it. Crying in bed Sasquatch. I'll just read it first, then I'll tell you about it. Psilocybin Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage, 4.7 seconds after being told, sorry, we're actually all out of walnuts, while on a medium-large dose of psilocybin mushrooms, unable to believe that this specific ice cream truck would just happen to be completely out of walnuts at this precise moment that he wanted walnuts, thinking this coincidence to be hilarious and barely stifling uncontrollable laughter, struggling to begin to formulate a verbal response to the increasingly visibly impatient ice cream salesperson. And this was part of a column I had for Vice magazine called Drug-Related Photoshop. And I did these every week. And this was one of the shortest captions. I wrote really long captions. Bearded hamster. This is just part of my North American Hamsters iPhone app that I'm working on. Finally, the fourth part. I started using pen, colored pencil, graph paper, and watercolor paper. And this is a crop circle idea I drew on graph paper. And then I posted it on Twitter, and then I kept on drawing over it, and it eventually became this. And I liked drawing this a lot. So I called it a mandala, and I gave it a number, and I thought I'll just draw these from now on. And I sold this on eBay. And this is the fourth one. And as much as, well, that looks weird up there. As much as I like drawing the first one I just showed you, when I started working on it even more, I started liking it a lot. And I was doing these just like 12 hours a day while stoned on cannabis. I would cook in my oven and smoke. And I would be hunched over my desk, and I hurt my back. And for like the last 6 months, I've had really bad lower back pain. But I started doing yoga and stretching, and I bought something where I can hang by my ribs so that the lower part of my body gets stretched, the spine, and my back feels fine now. The following is paid advertisement brought to you by psilocybin and other psychedelics, which have paid me with fascinating and mysterious and moving experiences, as well as new and desirable perspectives on life, death, reality, meaning, and other topics. Psilocybin is found in 200 plus species of mushrooms worldwide. In 1957, Gordon Wasson published an article in Life magazine about his experiences participating in an indigenous mushroom ceremony in southern Mexico. He ingested psilocybin mushrooms with Maria Sabina, a Mazatec shaman who died in 1985 at age 91. Wasson died a year later. He was 88. In 1958, psilocybin was isolated, synthesized, and named by Albert Hofmann, a Swiss scientist who died in 2008 at age 102. In 1985, Psilocybin Magic Mushroom Grower's Guide was published. It provided precise, no-fail instructions for growing and preserving the magic mushroom. This is the 7th mandala I drew. And around this time, something happened. Hamster simplification happened. Because in the past, whenever I drew a hamster, it would be a circle, 2 eyes, a mouth, 4 legs, and a tail. And starting with around here, I took off the legs and the tail. So now it's just a circle, 2 eyes, and a mouth. This is the 9th one I drew. And Jackson Pollock had an essay called My Painting, and he talked about how with his paintings he liked to take the canvas off the easel and put it on the floor. That way he could walk around it and work on it from all 4 sides. And with a lot of these mandalas, I would do that, except it would just be on a desk, and I'd turn it 90 degrees and work on it. And I would work on it as if it's going to be this way, but then I would turn 90 degrees more and work on it as if it would be that way. And only like near the end would I decide this way's the way and work on it more that way. This is the 12th one I made. This one was on the cover of Vice magazine about 8 months ago. When I'm making these, I imagine a lot of things. Sometimes I imagine I'm creating a world that I'll be forced to live in. So I try to make it like as varied and interesting and complex as possible when I'm thinking of that. I also think like I'm trying to encode as much information into an 8-inch by 8-inch square as possible. It's a lot harder to talk about these than the really simple ones. This is just a close-up of that one. This is a wingsuit flyer. And the reason I'm showing this is because sometimes while drawing these mandalas and extremely stoned, since the things I'm drawing are so tiny, I can imagine like I'm doing something extremely dangerous. And there's one wingsuit video of a person flying, and their hand is just like this far away from the mountainside. So if they just lose concentration for a microsecond, they'll die. And I imagined that as I was drawing, and I felt strongly like I was one of these wingsuit people. For this one's a good example of a mandala where I would draw a design, work on it for a long time, then suddenly just scribble all over it. And then I would try to incorporate all those scribbles into the next draft and then ruin it again. So throughout a lot of it, I felt like I was destroying it and creating it at the same time. This is just close-up of the last one. It shows two hamster things inside the world of Mandala 13. This is one I'm working on now. And it's a interconnected hamster thing with a pot leaf overlaid onto it. Thank you. That's my presentation.